Okay, so yeah, today we have a very different interview, very different episode here. And I'm actually in a put situation now because I don't know much about my interview guest. Wosmongton, a mysterious figure in the cosmos, in the crypto space. And there's a lot of questions that the community has asked, also a lot of funny questions. So I don't know where this conversation is going today, but thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, how's everything going on your side?
I'm glad you asked because I tweeted something ironically of that nature. I would say things are going well. It's been rather quiet in the community, and a lot of people are suspecting something is brewing, and they're not wrong, I'd say, but yeah, I was just committed to being in crypto and helping things where I can. But I'll always be the founding father of Osmosis.
Okay, that's a very interesting statement. And for those who are now completely puzzled by this format here, he's obviously using voice mods and does not want to be doxed at this point, at least. Maybe in the future we can get some more out of you. But yeah, I mean, you're obviously somehow involved in Osmosis. That's one thing that I want to find out today. And also, you have incentivized, or not incentivized, but you kind of like got a lot of people to delegate to your node. So we're also going to be talking about that. But before we do this, can you share as much as possible about your journey, your background, and also your kind of like your Osmosis founding father story, how that all came together?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. So I was originally introduced to crypto in around, say, like when Ethereum came out, so like 2015 time. Most people assume I've been alive since 1776. Whether you believe that or not is your choice, but I've been in crypto for only a short period of time, and I saw what was going on with the general state of blockchains and Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I ended up going down the Ethereum rabbit hole for years. Worked on a few different dApps and projects and protocols over the years, and really studied mostly the protocol side of things more than anything. So, I'm more of a protocol engineer and designer than I am a DeFi degen per se. So, that's sort of my background, and I basically, as founding father of Osmosis, I basically spun up the pools on Osmosis. So I was the first one to basically spin up the initial liquidity for everybody to put their tokens into. And nothing more than that. I don't contribute any significant code to the Osmosis code.
Yeah, it's funny because when I had Sunny here on the show, who is one of the co-founders of Osmosis, and I asked him about you, he didn't know who you were, and he's like that you are not kind of like part of the core team, like you just said. You are not actively contributing code, but it's funny because some sites are actually naming you and listing you as one of the actual co-founders of of Osmosis. So it's quite funny. But how? So you said you went down the Ethereum rabbit hole. At which point did you stumble upon Cosmos? Was Osmosis your first kind of like ecosystem that you went really deep into it? I also saw you talk a lot about Ethermint. You're also a big fan of them. But so you said that you like the cross-chain aspect of Cosmos, and obviously the whole purpose of Cosmos is to basically be the internet of blockchains and connect various chains and ecosystems and unlock their value. So how do you view, I mean, as I understand, you have heard about, and you're kind of like involved in Cosmos for a couple of years now. How do you view Cosmos, how it has evolved over the years to today, 2021, right? September 2021. Is it what you think it should have become earlier, or are we good on track here? Are we on track to realize the vision of the Internet of Blockchains, or how do you view Cosmos today, based on that previous vision a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so I've always had this thesis around Cosmos that, they always had the right ideas, and I think a lot of it came down to the timing of those ideas, as well as when they would get to in the ordering as well of those ideas, and how to prioritize and whatnot. And I think that when it comes to Cosmos, a lot of people are converging nowadays on very similar ideas that Cosmos has had for years. When I look at Ethereum 2.0 and see all these rollups that are now part of the strategy for scaling Ethereum, they look a lot like application specific chains, albeit they're commitment chains. And they're basically rolling up to like this O1 that is effectively kind of like the Cosmos hub. And there's a lot of analogs kind of showing up. Maybe they are superior, maybe they are not. We will see as time goes. But I've always thought that Cosmos has had the right ideas over the years, and it started with looking back at BFT consensus, then adding in proof of stake alongside that instead of leveraging proof of work, then basically focusing on IBC, for cross-chain interoperability, and these all happened in this sequence for a reason. Because you can't really have cross-chain interoperability like fast and safe without safety guarantees that Cosmos's Tendermint BFT offers, basically. So I've always kind of felt that Cosmos has been doing the right thing, and now people are kind of realizing that and taking some of their ideas in chunks. So the other day, weeks ago, Vitalik released a blog post on, or a ETH research post on fast finality for, Ethereum, like single block finality for Ethereum. And he listed reasons why. Basically, the main reason being like safety guarantees when it comes to single block finality, and this would enable stuff like IBC to be supported on Ethereum. But it's really ironic because you have another project like Ethermint, which is literally ready to launch, and has had this idea for years to basically launch Ethereum with this single block finality consensus algorithm, and effectively scale Ethereum at its O1 capacity. Since it's possible to, I think, scale Ethereum at its L1 capacity and get some really solid guarantees of security that rollups don't give. So there's some leg room there. So yeah, that's my general kind of thoughts about Cosmos and its evolution, where I think it stands today. It's not too late for it to kind of realize its complete potential. I think now is kind of the time it's realizing its truest potential.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of interesting products right now that are launching. A lot of also experimental things, right? I mean, even Osmosis, when it started, it was actually one of the first, or actually the first application that took IBC to the masses, right? Before that, IBC was a little bit kind of under the radar for a couple of months, and Osmosis came around and absolutely killed it, also in terms of branding, in terms of how the community is involved. I think now Osmosis is actually one of the largest DAOs already in the world in terms of community funds that are being managed by the DAO. But there's a lot of cool things here that came together. One thing I wanted to get a little bit back to is in the big picture of Cosmos, right? There has been this discussion a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago actually, about the Cosmos hub as kind of like the heart of the interchain, and its credible neutrality. There's some people that said, hey, the gravity DEX should not have been swapped into the Cosmos hub. It would rather be on its own zone. How do you view this? And how do you view the future of the Cosmos hub and Atom?
Yeah, so I think that I don't have any strong opinions here, actually. I think, you know, my view on this is that gravity as a piece of software is very valuable. It should be, it should be available to the masses. I think that's really the main purpose of this all. And launching a chain is kind of a implementation detail in the grand scheme of things. And I haven't really come up with a full opinion of whether I fully support it or whether I oppose it. I would say that, when it comes to like a feature like bridging, the main reason to sort of leverage, the main reason to sort of create a new chain is to basically separate the security model from, say, another chain, or to effectively not put the responsibility of securing assets on like the same validator set that is used to like secure other assets. So I think bridging is a complex problem that should be handled by many different chains. So I think gravity having everything show up through one chain may not be the right answer, because I think it goes against the ethos of IBC. But in the short term, a bridge that brings over assets is a good idea. I think it's good to have something that will fundamentally like bring Ethereum liquidity to Cosmos.
Okay, so you are also a proponent of having different variations of Ethereum bridges, maybe on the hub, separate chains and separate zones. That's interesting, and I think right now is actually a pivotal point, because we're seeing the gravity bridge going live on the Cosmos hub, right? And we see protocols like even Sommelier that tries to bridge Uniswap liquidity with Cosmos. Then the gravity bridge chain going live on its own as well. So there's going to be a lot of things, and obviously Ethermint, like I said. I think actually they're going through a rebranding, so I think they will be called different in a couple of weeks or months. But anyway, so you said earlier that you were founding father of Osmosis because you were one of the first ones to spin up a node, and that came kind of like out of nowhere. And a lot of people have delegated to you also because you said, hey guys, delegate to me. I want to be the top 5 validator on Osmosis. So first off, how do you view the general innovation that Osmosis brought? Why are you so excited about it? And how did you kind of like get involved in it so early on if you're not even part of the kind of like core development team?
That's a great question. I think it's the right question to ask. How did someone like me get involved with a team, of people that coordinated together and launched the Osmosis DEX? And the answer is I would say that just getting involved in projects. If you're early and you see something and you have value, I would say that's a huge asset in crypto. So my advice to people who want to do something like similar is, a lot of projects are out there and they're trying new things, and it's kind of up to you to go and discover them, whether they're out in the wild. So for example, like Osmosis was used to be a hackathon like project as when it started. So you were able to kind of discover that, someone went through like a hackathon and like started working on like a cross-chain dex. And there was like a GitHub repo where people were publicly like working on Osmosis. So just by process of discovery and communities, organic discovery is just very possible. Alternatively, maybe you just happen to know who is working on something in your network, and you just happen to come across, people that you follow on Twitter, or you discover through mutual friends or whatnot that are working on a project, and you figure out how to be an early proponent of it. And I think me as Wosmongton is merely, consider me a Dread Pirate Roberts to this whole situation. I am merely the first, perhaps one of the first of these situations where I'm just, an early evangelist who likes to be very involved to the point where I'm, helping secure the network. And I'm a single individual who may pass this name, for all you know.
Okay. So, and in that context, you have your node now. I think it's rank 7 on the Osmosis chain. You said, I think you made a couple of tweets about it, that you would reveal everything that you know about Ion when you become the 5th largest validator, and also some other things, kind of like indicating that there might be, I don't know, some airdrop. Is there a project that you're working on? Maybe you can share a little bit what this whole allegation is all about, without giving you too much airtime, because we're actually in direct competition here. You also, because I'm also running a node. But yeah, maybe you can share some thoughts here, what all this is about.
Sure. So as of now, I don't have anything explicit to share regarding the future of your support and delegations, but I would like to say thank you, as this is a very important tool in taking care of the Osmosis chain, as governance is particularly a valuable thing to leverage when it comes to protecting the values of the chain. So, as my name is George Wosmongton, and I'm trying to protect the republic that we've formed of Osmo, and I think that delegation, part of delegating to Wosmongton, to me is part of protecting that, but also I think the other reason to delegate to me is to maybe expect something to come out in the future of George Wosmongton's lab. Because I do have a lab, and I do work on things, and there's potential for something to come out of said lab.
Okay, so what is these things? What can you share about it? This is also something in the DeFi space that it has something to do with interoperability, or what are the core things that you're really working on? And is there any sort of like rough timeline, obviously not exact dates, but like rough timeline where we could see something unfolding?
Yeah, so you can definitely assume this is something on Cosmos, on the Cosmos network. I don't have any rough timelines. I'm merely an individual here in terms of my capabilities, but if anybody would like to discuss with me as to what I should do, I've definitely been thinking about some things in my private lab. So I would encourage people to reach out to me and tell me what they want to see. But also, part of this is also, people were expecting me to kind of give Ion a sense of purpose. And I think the community is actually doing quite a good job at trying to give Ion its sense of purpose. But in terms of my role in Ions, and my role in these delegations, and starting new projects, I can't say anything like explicit other than we're going to be building in Cosmos.
And speaking of Ion, this is one thing that people keep asking me, like, man, what is the Ion thing about? I have no idea what it does, what it is, what's the utility. And when I asked Sunny about it, he told me that he was the one who wanted to put it onto the mainnet in the last basically a few days before they launched it. And now it's this kind of like community coin that is out there. And I think the community is also really active in finding use cases for Ions. What, in your perception, is Ion, and what do you think could Ion become in the future?
So, in terms of Ions and the future, I would say, so first off, the community has figured out kind of, where Ions, how Ions were distributed and where they come from. There's information out there on where they came from. So that's out there. So the usage of Ions, now that's something that's, I think, still up for governance and debate. And one of the things I initially proposed was Ion should become this coin that is effectively a floating point currency, kind of like gold is, used to back some kind of like stable coin, like currency. And what I thought it could basically become is, it could basically be used as like collateral to like issue a certain stable coin based on the designs of Gyroscope. Gyroscope is this like stable coin that so far is, I think, the most impressive stablecoin design out there. It's a stablecoin that basically tries to resemble the markets of like an ETF in the sense of like, how does the ETF like balance like the basket to like maintain like track an index. So there's like a primary market and there's like a secondary market, and most people are actually trading the ETF through like secondary market, but there's a primary market as like a liquidity provider as like of last resort. I won't explain it all because it'll take a while to break it down, but I think it's worth looking into, and it kind of mitigates a lot of the stable coin issues that were issues with Fay, for example, and also issues with UST to some extent. Which, by the way, I'm excited that UST is coming to Osmosis. I think there should be stablecoin options, and algorithmic stablecoins are cool. But I think if we had to pick like an ideal stablecoin, I think Gyroscope is right now the stablecoin that I would bet on maybe in the next year, where it's kind of like, it hasn't launched, so we don't know if it actually works yet, right? But I think in terms of mitigating the downsides of relying on like Luna, for example, in the case of USD, or maintaining PEG, and then sort of putting that stability risk at the expense of Luna holders, it actually contains a basket of assets that ensure that it's an all-weather like portfolio that is responsible for like maintaining PEG and minting and burning effectively in a similar way by just managing liquidity of these reserves. So that's my general thoughts on kind of what Ion could have been used for, like initially. Over time, I've seen different use cases that I'm not sure about. But Ion is effectively, being used as a store of value. It is, dare I say, it is sound money. I think it's held its price, and I think, I want to say that the community will decide what will go for it. Me personally, if my projects and my experiments, my lab are successful, it may involve Ion in some capacity, but I think I would expect to reward my delegators first and foremost.
Makes sense, yeah. And I agree. I think basically the entire Cosmos ecosystem, but obviously AMMs like Osmosis and Gravity require stablecoins to also kind of like open the gates for users, and probably also some whales to come in, provide liquidity, and become users and drag in even more people. But I think we're seeing that. I think eMoney is the first one. They bringing their Euro-backed stablecoin and the USTs around the corner, and Ions as kind of like potentially a collateralized native stablecoin on Osmosis could also be an interesting idea. But yeah, I think the community especially is so excited about it because there's only like what 21,000 of them, right? And there was this proposal that like 80% of the ions that were not claimed so far are going to, I don't know, be reused for something else, maybe burned, maybe used as I don't know, incentives for people that already hold ion and are active community members. So lots of interesting things here. So in that context, how do you view Osmosis in the longer run? One thing, for example, your thoughts on this, that I'm personally excited about is to see more and more chains and projects actually launching and bootstrapping liquidity on Cosmos and obviously on Osmosis. The first one was Region Network, right? They had this LBP on Osmosis that went on for a week, and then there's this price finding mechanism. Do you think this is a good use case for Osmosis, and what other use cases do you think Osmosis is going to be focusing on in the next couple of months and years eventually?
Yeah, so I think Osmosis as a place to kind of list your token is first and foremost, that's really cool because you don't have to ICO like the traditional way, and I think having a cross-chain place to kind of put your liquidity, your initial liquidity, and get your token out to users is really unique. That's like something that I think is very cool. Now, the implementation of LVPs is kind of something that I think Sunny and I will probably agree on is that it is a bit strange, the way the pool weights like change, and effectively it's like this. It's effectively like this falling knife game until like people like start buying up, buying up the tokens, so that the supply of the tokens like don't actually like end up changing, so that the price doesn't like keep falling. The price actually just like fixates on a certain equilibria. So when it comes to LBPs, I think there's definitely room for improvement. I think right now it's kind of the de facto like price discovery mechanism, and it gets a lot of like savvy users because most average users don't really get LBPs. But if you want the crypto users who really get this stuff, LBPs are right now like some of the best ways to basically issue your tokens out. And if you're not doing an airdrop and you want to get more liquidity out and also acquire more capital, as part of this, because liquidity bootstrapping, is what it says. It's basically like a progressing like fundraise, kind of for your token, and people are buying into the token and throwing a lot of maybe USDC, for example, underneath it in the case of many Ethereum LBPs. So that's kind of my general thoughts on the method of IDOing through LBP.
So there has also been a couple of interesting proposals on the Osmosis governance. One of them was the idea to add dual token model for LPs. So can you talk a little bit about that? I think you have some thoughts about this. And I think this proposal also got rejected, right?
Yeah, so it got rejected, and it was a pretty detailed proposal. So I was actually like, pretty excited to see it. What I thought was, so first off, the whole concept of having like a 1090 pool and a 9010 pool on like an AMM platform like Balancer, it's been done before, and like some platforms have used it to basically do like to provide like yield farms for like their like governance token, and it works in the sense that a lot of people put up liquidity and hold on to said tokens. Usually, it's 90-10 with like a stable coin and 1090 with a stable coin, because the impermanent loss is just like very much minimized. And effectively LPs are kind of doing this like relatively like risk-free, like liquidity providing like setup, but LPs are also not really doing their job as much. So like, they're not really like taking the hit in terms of like impermanent loss, which would then provide like better liquidity to like traders. So like, if you get enough liquidity, you can kind of mitigate the downsides of this, which is actually what the proposal suggested. But long term, I think there were some weird things in that proposal, such as like including ions as part of the pool, and I think like one of the things when it comes to governance proposals that I would advise people to do is introduce things in smaller steps, and you may have more success.
Yeah, but I think definitely on Osmosis we're seeing a lot of, I don't know, we're already at proposal number 39 or something, and this thing only launched 3 months ago. So really cool to see the community being so active. And I think according to Map of Zones, it's 30,000 or something monthly active users, which is crazy. And then also in that kind of like context about dual token models and those kind of things, what is your thoughts about the tokenomics of Osmo, and also the whole kind of like circulating economy of Osmo behind the scenes, and benefits also for the LPs and those kind of things?
Yeah, so one thing I like about Osmosis tokenomics is that, very conscious of past design decisions. So I like, the concept of thirdening, for example, is stolen from Bitcoin, and since that Bitcoin has like a halvening based on like block difficulty, and it's really cool to kind of see that in Osmosis, in sort of a different scale with a different scaling factor. I think it kind of gives it this like sense that, hey, like this is a deflationary like asset. And I think other things that the Osmosis token distribution has done is it really got people to buy into this early like mission vision that the team has had, and I would love to kind of see um, more of these like early adopters, continue to contribute in the way they have through governance and whatnot. I think like another thing is, places for liquidity to go. So, it's kind of surprising that, the yields have been amazing. The yields have been very, very good. And that includes staking, that includes LP, LP positions, and bonding those positions. And I think that is not by accident that sustained for this long, but also the price of Osmo has also sustained. I think it's occurred because, the design of the token where, there's all these places to kind of like place your liquidity instead of like selling it. You actually you put your liquidity in different places.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's almost there's this like perpetual motion effect that this project has that I think, that I think is going to be further rectified with stuff like superfluid staking. I think, once if we're able to use like positions to like secure the network, I think that's like a next level like perpetual motion like design decision that's pretty cool. I would say that Sunny has this saying of like, perpetual motion like doesn't work in like it doesn't really work in physical worlds, but in digital worlds maybe it does. And yeah, like Terra is like a good example of that, but we've also seen other examples that I think are good. And I would actually say that Osmosis is like more of a justified like perpetual motion mechanism in the sense that like they are finding ways to like lock liquidity and like continually like not introduce like new random like tokens in this process, right? There's only Osmo, like Terra kind of has like 10 different tokens kind of like powering the machine, but Osmosis only has like one, or an ion of course, which I would consider not necessarily part of the perpetual motion machine, but as a floating point, like form of money.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people have asked me, man, how can this be possible that you have such high yields, but at the same time the price keeps going up, and it's all due to the kind of like design structure, the value accrual, and also obviously, like you said, this kind of like reusage of kind of like harvesting your liquidity rewards, which you get basically magically shown up in your wallet every day, every 24 hours. And then you can also reuse them to stake natively on chain, which is all part of the kind of like game theory of the tokenomics here and how they roll out the coin. I'll also give an article under this video because it's really important to understand. You mentioned the third inning, how Osmo come into people's hands, right? There's also there's no kind of like very early investors that eat 10 or 20 or 30% of the supply in the beginning, right? Instead of on tens of thousands of access. I think there's a lot of things that make this a very clean and fair launch. Obviously, also with this giant airdrop that people received, or a fair drop. So I think there's so many cool elements that overall make this a very exciting DeFi platform, and all the features that Cosmos provides, IBC, Tenement, also enhance the user experience, right? So it's basically like Uniswap plus Ethereum plus Balancer on steroids, right? This is really cool to see, and I love using it. I've never heard anybody who complained about using Osmosis, so it's probably one of the best kept secrets still to date in the crypto space, even though I see now more and more people coming out and talking about it. Zoom a little bit more out. I mean, it's really hard because I don't know anything about you. So what is your, you entered the crypto industry in 2015, more or less, and started kind of like your deep journey on Ethereum. How do you view the giants, Bitcoin and Ethereum today? Do you think they're, what do you think their future is? What are general thoughts, I guess, about Bitcoin and Ethereum? And do you think also that Cosmos could, I don't know, potentially add a lot of value to both ecosystems? I think one of the reasons why Sunny is so excited about Cosmos in the first place is that he tried to kind of like maximize the value of Bitcoin by offloading it onto something like Cosmos, which is fueled by Tendermint and much faster, cheaper, and faster settlement. So, what are your thoughts about that, and how do you view the Bitcoin and Ethereum ecosystem today in 2021?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, these were like fundamental paradigm shifts in their own right, and I think they will always be around in some capacity. So in order for Cosmos to kind of fit in that grand picture, I think Cosmos can't just do the exact same thing, Ethereum and Bitcoin did. It has to do something groundbreakingly different. And I think in the grand scheme, how all these will kind of like work in tandem is, I think, IBC is something that will get deployed in many different ways across many different chains. And the onus of kind of getting the network effects of this is going to be on the wallets. So there's going to be a lot of efforts put into, people sort of crafting the UX for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the Cosmos network to kind of work with each other like seamlessly. And I think, to most people, most people aren't going to like the command line and like signing off like, on the base layer with like their private key, and that's like kind of like we're still kind of there in some regards, and I think I would expect many abstraction layers to come going forward, and I think this kind of fits in with the grand vision of all these like layer twos, all these like different sort of interpretations of what it means to use Ethereum that exists. I think similarly we're going to see like new interpretations of what it means to like use Bitcoin and what it means to use like stuff on a Cosmos network. So this is where I think evolution is going, and I think a lot of that evolution's value is going to be like represented by wallet UX and how we handle like how we reconcile all these different like chains, and how to like communicate with them and effectively like send money between them and make cross-chain contract calls or something.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff in the works, especially looking into the Cosmos ecosystem, which is what I've been doing over the past 6 months or something. So what are some other projects? We talked about Osmosis, we talked about Ion, we talked about Ethermint a little bit. What are some other Cosmos ecosystem projects, or maybe even outside of Cosmos, that you are super kind of like excited about, that you look forward to either launch, or that you also think about maybe getting involved or bridge ecosystems with Cosmos too?
Yeah, I think if I had to pick kind of the projects that I'm most excited about, obviously, I have to say Osmosis, right? But then the other ones I'm excited about, Ethermint, I think I'll definitely support their network and run a validator and see how it can be helpful there. I think I'm a big fan of what Region is doing, like conceptually. I don't know if the like having a blockchain is going to get them to achieve their true mission, but I think the resources and the execution they have is really impressive. I think Anoma, which is kind of part of the Cosmos ecosystem, but not really. They support IBC, but they're not a chain built on like the Cosmos SDK. They're a chain that I think will be an interesting experiment to kind of see realized, since their thesis is that barter is kind of like the way to like go when it comes to dealing with crypto, because we have the forms of money already. Like Bitcoin is great, and like Ethereum is great, and so are many other assets. The reality is we don't need to create new like tokens. We have the stores of value, and it's just a matter of like optimizing the bartering of these assets. So that's like one thesis that I would like to see kind of realized. Maybe that actually aligns with like the whole NFT boom we're seeing.
Okay. And so the interesting thing here is that you created this character, right? Like George Wosmongton is all around kind of like being the founding father of Osmosis. So what can you tell us about this character, who that character is, and how you also want to kind of like, I don't know, evolve moving forward? I mean, do you plan to one day come out and like kind of like reveal who you are? Because I think hearing you speak now, and I can only assume you must be at least known with many people within the Cosmos community, especially. But what's your plan with kind of a character of Wosmongton moving forward? And yeah, maybe you can share some thoughts about that if you have any.
I think Wosmongton is a character that should live on, even if me, the individual who represents Wosmongton, is no longer in existence. It should be something that someone carries on. And let's say I as a dev decides to use the Cosmos sphere. I think someone else should definitely the plan would be to create incentives perhaps to have people to represent Wosmongton and carry on his legacy. And I think the legacy of Wosmongton is to be this figure who is really fighting for the individual, right? So it's not about the VCs or the institutions or any of that. It's more about you're just some individual guy who can go on these exchanges, provide liquidity, trade, and nobody's gonna bother you kind of thing. I think that's kind of the ethos that Washington is fighting for, which is why I always tweet about fighting for fair farms, because I think in truth there's actually some value in that. Basically making a fair playing field for people to earn on these financial arbitrage opportunities, which is why I'm actually a big critic of the current state of MEV. I think MEV is interesting as a research problem, but I don't think there's actually any efforts to truly mitigate MEV when I think there are there's real solutions available to solving MEV.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about and explain in simple terms also, because my audience and I'm personally also not really technical in that sense. Can you explain a little bit the problem of MEV, where it currently stands, what potential threat it poses to the chains, and then also how Ethermint and Cosmos could potentially resolve it, or if it already resolved it in that way?
Yeah, so MEV for MEV stands for miner extractable value. And this concept arises from the fact that miners are kind of the most privileged actor in the sense that whenever you submit some kind of transaction and somebody is deciding which order to commit it in, miners are kind of the last entity to be responsible for that. And when they can kind of decide which order transactions occur, they can basically either become privileged actors themselves, or they can work with other people to make them privileged actors. So what I mean by that is front running, where if you imagine a sandwich attack on Uniswap, it's somebody puts in an order to buy an asset on a pool, and in Uniswap we know there's slippage, and that transaction to basically buy an asset on the pool, it's seen in the mempool. What the miner can basically do is they can then put in an order to buy the same asset, and then they can see that, oh, you're buying this much of said asset, and they put their order in first. Then they decide, okay, I'm going to sell my assets. After you buy the assets and raise the price, and effectively they've gained a free arbitrage, which is really bad for the average user, since you're just getting worse price. Now, of course, if this market is really efficient, you can potentially minimize the amount of MEV that's occurring, the amount of front running that's occurring. But yeah, it's kind of weird because I think Bloomberg put out an article about this on the front page today, where it's this is kind of the new like Flash Boys, like it's new like Wall Street competitive like quants with like privileged like tech and like resources, like pushing to get like the best like execution for their situations. So in Wall Street it's usually like information or like speed of like internet connection, or those are usually like tools in the arsenal to compete with your competitors. But here it's more like how well can you like analyze the mempool, how fast can you write your services to like read the mempool and then submit a transaction that would then front run users in the mempool, or find opportunities that would also have MEV. And there's MEV on Osmosis. There's MEV, cross-chain between IBC chains. So there's definitely opportunity for people who are skilled enough to go and extract said MEV. But this is kind of antithetical to the whole fight for fair farms in a way. So Osmosis will have some strategies perhaps to mitigate this. I mean, has hinted at the implementation of like threshold decryption schemes for making this work. But there's this is kind of like one of the few like chains kind of like pushing that narrative. I would say Ethereum, on the other hand, is more aligned with allowing MEV to be like extracted and allowing MEV to like occur at mass enough scale to where it hopefully gets minimized. But I'm not sure if that's like the right solution for long-term usage, and kind of makes the crypto space a little more like Wall Street. So
yeah, and it is definitely not credibly neutral, as it poses, like you explained, the opportunity for those people that are skilled enough to kind of like do this arbitrage things and front run the masses here. Yeah, that's a problem I think that a lot of layer ones have, and this also shows how early we still are in the whole Cryptoverse, right? I mean, the Ethereum project started 6 years ago. Bitcoin is only 12 years old. I mean, this is very like early experimental technology that we're moving in. So everybody who is also listening now and is like, man, this is so cool. Osmosis is so exciting. Treat all of these things with caution. There's still a lot of things open questions, even though obviously crypto, and I think that's also what you try to express with Wosmongton. It is a very liberal, open field for everyone to be financially included, generate cash flow and passive income. I know a lot of people have, even just from the airdrop of Osmo, and then some people got 2 or 3 ions. Like, this is only possible in crypto, and there's so many opportunities also for the community to get involved, right? We're seeing now Osmosis being one of the largest DAOs, I think, by now, managing, 5 million Osmo. And we're seeing proposals in the governance and people going in Twitter spaces, 100, 200 people asking like, hey, should we wave this through? What do you think? What are your plans? What are you doing? But there's so many cool things in place for everyone to kind of like be part of this new paradigm, finance, and basically replacing a lot of things in the traditional world, which I'm also personally, convinced that this is why crypto is going to succeed. I was actually just trying to kind of like collect some community questions, but most of them are I can't ask you that. I mean, there's a guy who asked whether your teeth are really wooden. So I don't know if that's a serious question. I think maybe over the time, when we hear more from you and see more from you, there's going to be more things. Is this actually, by the way, your first time that you're a character of Wosmongton? You're like talking to somebody?
You are indeed the first one to have Wosmongton premiere on a live podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's an honor for me. And so, if you were hypothetically speaking, if you were to come to the Cosmoverse conference in Lisbon, would people recognize you?
That's a great question. The answer to that, I think, I don't know who's coming, so I'm actually not sure. But
I mean, Sunny, for
maybe
example,
not.
is coming, Billy Rennekamp, a lot of
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. I would say that I may even not even be on the official list. You never know where I could be, where it could be hiding. But I think in terms of my spirit, I think I will be around, as I always am in some capacity.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I'm a fan of your tweets also, and kind of like this. I think people have to read a little bit between the lines about your tweets, and also take things a little bit with with humor, because there's a lot of things also how you're interacting with people. So that's really cool. Keep that up. I'm a big fan. And yeah, I mean, as we are wrapping up, because we're almost in an hour mark, what are your final thoughts? Something that you want to share with the world, and also some things that you are working on and that people should check out as they follow your stuff.
Yeah, so I think my main focuses these days are helping projects like Osmosis succeed. So if you are working on something and you would like to succeed, hopefully, then you should talk to me, and maybe I could help in some capacity similar to how I did in Osmosis. I try not to be a shill. I'm a little more of a conscious shill, let's put it that way. So I support projects like Ethermint, and I like projects. I like projects like Anoma and a few others. Osmosis and Ethermint are kind of like the things that I right now mostly care about.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Wosmongton. It's been an honor to be the first kind of like platform and interviewer for you. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, and love your tweets and look forward to more.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Michael, for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Cool.